Adrian Cole was a man of power, wealth, and precision. Everything in his life ran on schedule, his business meetings, his gym sessions, even his family dinners. Nothing surprised him anymore, or so he thought. His 12-year-old daughter, Tonia, was the only spark of unpredictability in his otherwise calculated world. She was cheerful, talkative, and had a heart that saw good in everyone. Every day after school, she would rush into his office, drop a kiss on his cheek, and beg, "Daddy, can the driver please stop by the park today?" At first, Adrian thought it was just a phase. Maybe she liked the swings, or she'd made some new school friends who lived nearby. But weeks passed, and her visits became a ritual. She would spend nearly an hour at the same old park near the city bridge before coming home. One evening, while checking his schedule, Adrian overheard the driver chatting with one of the housemaids. "Nah, that same woman she go meet again today," the driver said in a low voice. "The pregnant one by the bridge, the one that always sit there with her small girl." Adrian's pen froze midair. Pregnant woman? Bridge? When Tonia got home that night, she was beaming. "Daddy, guess what? Lila got all her spellings right today," she announced proudly. "Who is Lila?" he asked. "She's my friend. Her mom helps her study while waiting for people to give them food. I help her too. She's really smart." Adrian's brows tightened. His daughter, his only child, spending her afternoons with strangers who lived on the street? He felt a wave of unease. "Tonia," he said gently but firmly, "you don't need to be out there. There are safer places to play." "But Daddy," she protested, "Lila isn't dangerous. She's just poor. And her mom is really nice. You'd like her if you met her." He sighed. Children always spoke from their hearts, not their heads. "You have everything you need here. Toys, tutors, comfort. You don't have to play the savior." Tonia looked up at him with her bright, innocent eyes. "Maybe I'm not trying to save her, Daddy. Maybe I'm learning from her." That night, as Adrian sat in his study, he couldn't focus on his documents. His mind kept wandering back to that image. His daughter, sitting beside a pregnant homeless woman. What could she possibly be learning there? He promised himself he'd get answers soon. But somewhere deep inside, a small, unfamiliar feeling tugged at his chest. Part concern, part curiosity. Because for the first time in a long while, Adrian Cole, the man who had everything, realized there was something happening in his daughter's heart that his money could never control. The park near the city's old bridge was nothing like the places Tonia was used to. It wasn't bright or fancy. It smelled of roasted corn, smoke, and sometimes rain-soaked dust. The swings were rusty, and the benches had missing planks. But Tonia didn't mind. For her, it was where kindness lived. Every afternoon after school, her car would stop near the bridge. She'd grab her backpack and wave cheerfully at the woman who sat under a tree with her daughter. "Good afternoon, Miss Maya," Tonia greeted. Maya's smile was always gentle. Her clothes were faded, and her shoes had worn-out soles, but she carried herself with quiet grace. She was in her late 20s, and her pregnant belly was now impossible to hide beneath her old gown. Her little girl, Lila, sat beside her, clutching a small exercise book with dog-eared pages. "Tonia, you're here," Lila squealed, her eyes sparkling. She ran forward and hugged her friend tightly. "I brought you a pencil set today," Tonia said proudly, pulling out a colorful pack. "And look, this one has a sharpener at the back." Lila gasped. "Wow, I've never had one like this." Maya placed a hand on her daughter's shoulder. "Say thank you properly, my dear." "Thank you, Tonia," Lila said shyly, hugging her gift. They sat together on the old bench, with Tonia helping Lila practice spelling words while Maya watched silently. Every few minutes, Maya would correct her daughter's handwriting or gently wipe her sweaty forehead. Despite her hardship, she carried warmth that made people feel safe. Tonia couldn't explain why she liked being there so much. Maybe it was the way Lila's laughter echoed like sunshine, or how Maya always spoke kindly even when she looked tired. There was something peaceful about them. Something real that her world of glass walls and marble floors didn't have. Sometimes Maya would tell stories. Once, There was a girl who thought she had nothing, she said one day as Lila and Tonia listened closely. But then she realized that her kindness was the richest gift of all. So, she shared it with everyone. And that made her a queen in hearts. Tonia smiled. I like that story. My dad says money makes you powerful, but I think kindness does too. Maya chuckled softly. Your father sounds like a wise man, but maybe he just needs to remember what kind of power truly lasts. Unknown to Maya, those simple words would later echo in Adrian's mind like a lesson from life itself. Sometimes, when Tonia's driver honked, signaling it was time to leave, Maya would hand her something in return. A tiny handmade bracelet, a roasted corn cob, or a drawing Lila had made. I can't take this, Tonia would protest. You don't have much, but Maya would insist. Giving is not about how much we have, my dear. It's about sharing what's in our hearts. That evening, as Tonia rode home, she looked out the window, watching Maya and Lila fade into the distance. Something inside her ached, a mix of admiration and sadness. She wished her father could see what she saw, that even without wealth, some people still carried light. Meanwhile, in a tall glass building across town, Adrian Cole sat in his office, unaware that the woman his daughter visited was more than a stranger on the street. She was a missing piece of a story that had started years before. A story of loss, injustice, and a truth that would soon shake his entire world. Adrian Cole had never been a man who liked mysteries, especially not ones that involved his daughter. His world ran on clarity, facts, and figures. So when Tonia began spending every afternoon with the homeless woman and her child, he couldn't rest easy. First, he tried to ignore it. Children, he told himself, often go through strange phases. Today it's drawing on walls, tomorrow it's feeding stray cats. Maybe this was one of those things. But as days passed, it became clear that this wasn't a passing fancy. His daughter's heart was deeply attached to those people by the bridge. One Thursday evening, as his car glided through the city traffic, Adrian asked his driver casually, James, where does Tonia usually stop after school? James hesitated. At the park by the old bridge, sir. What does she do there? She sits with a woman and her daughter. They read books sometimes. The woman looks poor, sir. Pregnant, too. Adrian frowned, tapping his fingers against the window. How long has this been happening? Almost 2 months, sir. The billionaire leaned back, deep in thought. His daughter had been hiding this from him, or maybe she didn't think it was wrong. Either way, it was unacceptable. What if someone took advantage of her? What if these people were pretending to be kind just to get close to his family? That night, he couldn't focus on his reports. The numbers on the screen blurred into meaningless digits. All he could picture was Tonia sitting beside strangers, laughing freely in a world far from his control. Not anymore, he muttered. The next afternoon, he called his head of security. Follow my daughter's car from school tomorrow. I want to know exactly what happens. Take pictures if you must. The man nodded, though he looked uneasy. Understood, sir. When the photos arrived the following day, Adrian's heart sank. There she was, his little girl, sitting on a dusty bench, her school uniform wrinkled, her shoes covered in mud. She was laughing, holding a small book while a tiny girl leaned against her shoulder. The pregnant woman, sitting beside them, watched with soft eyes. They looked like a family. For a long while he couldn't move. He just stared at the pictures, a strange tightness forming in his chest. It wasn't anger this time, it was something else. Something uncomfortable and unfamiliar. That evening at dinner, he cleared his throat. Tonia, what did you do after school today? She looked up from her plate. I helped Lila with her assignment. She had a test coming up. And who is Lila again? He asked, his tone sharper than he intended. My friend, she said simply. Her mom's name is Maya. She's really kind. Kind, Adrian echoed. She's homeless, Tonia. You shouldn't be hanging around people like that. Tonia's fork dropped onto her plate. Why not? She's a person, Daddy. He sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. People aren't always what they seem. Not everyone out there has good intentions. But she does. Tonia's voice cracked. She helps Lila study even when she's tired. She tells stories that make people smile. She never asks me for money. She just thanks me and prays for me. Her sincerity caught him off guard. He wanted to argue, but something in her eyes, that glow of innocent conviction, silenced him. After dinner, as Tonia went to bed, Adrian stood by her door, watching her sleep peacefully. A question tugged at his mind. What could that woman possibly have that keeps my daughter going back? He promised himself that by the end of the week he'd find out. But what he didn't know was that uncovering the truth would not only change his opinion of the woman, it would change everything he believed about himself. Saturday morning arrived with a stillness that Adrian Cole rarely experienced. His mansion was quiet. No phone calls, no meetings, no boardroom noise, just silence. Yet his mind was anything but calm. He had spent the past 2 days staring at those photographs of Tonia with the homeless woman and her daughter. Every time he looked, a different emotion surfaced. Anger, confusion, curiosity, and something he didn't want to admit, guilt. By noon, Tonia came down the grand staircase, her hair neatly braided, a small backpack slung across her shoulder. "Good morning, Daddy," she chirped. Adrian folded his newspaper slowly. "Morning, Tonia. Where are you going?" She smiled brightly. "To the park, of course. Lila has a science project, and I promised to help." He set the newspaper aside. "Sit down." Tonia froze. Something in his tone felt different, heavier. She sat across from him, clutching her bag. "Tell me," he began softly, "why do you keep going there? To that woman and her daughter?" She blinked, unsure how to answer. "Because they're my friends. Your friends." His voice rose slightly. "Do you even know who they are? What if they're dangerous? What if they're lying to you?" Tonia frowned. "They're not dangerous, Daddy. Maya is kind. She tells me stories, and Lila is really smart. You'd like them if you gave them a chance." Adrian leaned forward. "Tonia, you have no idea how the world works. Not everyone smiling at you means well." Her small voice trembled, but she didn't back down. "Maybe not everyone, but some people do. Maya never asks me for money or gifts. She just wants her daughter to learn." Her eyes glistened, but she continued. "You always tell me to make a difference, to help others. Isn't that what I'm doing?" Adrian paused. He had told her that, hadn't he? It was one of his favorite motivational lines. True leadership means impact. But when his daughter actually tried to live it, he felt threatened. He cleared his throat. "There are better ways to help. You could volunteer through charities, proper ones, not sit in a dirty park with strangers." Tonia shook her head, her eyes suddenly fierce. "But you never go to those charities, Daddy. You just send money." Maya said something yesterday. She said giving isn't only about what's in your hand, but what's in your heart. I think she's right. Her words cut deeper than he expected. For a moment, he saw his late wife in her. That same courage, that same fire. He softened his tone. "Tonia, I'm not angry because you care. I just want to keep you safe." She looked up, her voice quiet. "Then come with me. Meet them. You'll see." He hesitated. The idea of sitting under a bridge, surrounded by strangers, made him uncomfortable. But the look on her face, hopeful, pure, made it impossible to refuse. "Fine," he said finally, picking up his car keys. "Let's go together." Tonia's eyes lit up. "Really? You mean it?" "Yes," he sighed. "But just for today." As they drove through the city, Adrian stared out the window, lost in thought. He had met presidents, investors, and powerful men. But now, he was about to meet a woman who had captured his daughter's heart with nothing but kindness. What he didn't know was that this meeting would not only reveal who Maya truly was, it would also uncover a secret buried deep in his past, one that would change his life forever. The sky was heavy that afternoon, thick gray clouds pressing low over the city. The wind carried the scent of rain and roasted corn, and the streets glistened faintly from an earlier drizzle. Adrian Cole's sleek black car pulled over beside the old bridge, its polished surface looking out of place among rusted street signs and cracked sidewalks. Tonia jumped out eagerly. her school shoes splashing through puddles. "Come on, Daddy. They're just over there." Adrian stepped out slowly, adjusting his jacket. He felt the curious stares of passers-by, some recognizing his face from magazine covers, others wondering what a billionaire was doing in such a place. His polished shoes sank slightly into the mud, and for the first time in years he felt out of his element. Under the shade of a mango tree sat Maya. She had spread an old piece of cloth on the ground, balancing a tray of roasted groundnuts beside her. Her daughter, Lila, sat cross-legged, frowning at a school notebook as she tried to solve a math problem. Despite the simplicity of the scene, there was something peaceful about it, a kind of warmth money couldn't buy. "Lila!" Tonia called out. The little girl's face brightened instantly. "Tonia!" She leapt up and ran toward her, hugging her tightly. Then she paused, noticing the tall man beside her. "Is that your dad?" Tonia nodded proudly. "Yes, Daddy, this is Lila. And that's her mom, Miss Maya." Maya looked up, startled. Her hand froze midway as she tried to wipe her palms on her gown before standing. "Good afternoon, sir," she said politely, her voice soft but steady. "It's an honor to meet you." Adrian nodded stiffly. "Good afternoon." For a moment, there was an awkward silence. The sound of passing cars filled the air. Tonia broke it quickly. "Daddy, can I help Lila with her assignment before we go?" He hesitated, glancing around at the rough surroundings. The broken benches, the muddy ground, the worn-out umbrella leaning against the tree. But Tonia's hopeful eyes made it hard to refuse. "Go ahead," he said finally. As the two girls sat down and began working through the notebook, Adrian remained standing, his gaze falling on Maya. She was younger than he expected, maybe in her late 20s, though hardship had aged her eyes. Her hands were rough but gentle as she arranged the papers beside her daughter. "You let my daughter come here often," he said after a moment. His tone wasn't harsh, but it carried authority. "Why?" Maya looked up at him calmly. "Because she comes with kindness, sir. And kindness is a rare gift. I couldn't turn it away." Her answer disarmed him. Most people spoke nervously around him, choosing words carefully to impress or flatter. But Maya's voice was different, sincere, unshaken. He studied her face, and something about it made his chest tighten. The curve of her nose, her eyes. There was something hauntingly familiar, but he couldn't place it. Maya continued, unaware of his inner confusion. "Your daughter has been helping Lila with her studies. She's a blessing. I told her once that sometimes angels don't come with wings. They come with backpacks." She smiled faintly at Tonia, who was laughing beside Lila. Adrian's lips twitched in a reluctant half-smile. "You're very optimistic for someone in your situation." Maya's gaze dropped briefly to her swollen belly, then lifted again. "Hope is free, sir, and it's the only thing we can afford to give our children." Her words struck him harder than he expected. Suddenly, thunder rumbled in the distance. Rain began to fall in slow, heavy drops. Without thinking, Adrian took off his suit jacket and held it over Tonia's head. Maya quickly pulled her daughter close, using their old umbrella to shield them. For a few seconds, the two families stood under the rain, two worlds colliding quietly beneath gray skies. When Tonia finally said goodbye and they got back into the car, Adrian didn't speak. He just stared out the window, lost in thought. There was something about that woman, something that tugged at a memory he thought was long gone. By the time they reached home, he already knew what he would do next. He would find out exactly who Maya was. That night, Adrian Cole couldn't sleep. The image of Maya's face refused to leave his mind. There was something about her, a familiarity that whispered of unfinished stories. He had met thousands of people in his life, but this was different. Her calm eyes, her polite tone, even the way she spoke about hope, it all felt connected. By 2 a.m., he was still awake, pacing across his marble-floored study. The rain tapped softly against the windows as he made a decision. He picked up his phone and called his assistant, Mr. Parker. "Sir, is everything all right?" The groggy voice answered. I need you to find out everything about a woman named Maya, Adrian said firmly. She's pregnant, lives near the old bridge with her daughter, about 7 or 8 years old. I want her full background, employment history, family, everything. There was a pause. Understood, sir. I'll start first thing in the morning. But Adrian didn't have to wait long. By noon, Parker arrived with a brown folder. His expression was serious. Sir, there's something you'll want to see. Adrian opened the file, scanning the first few pages. His hands began to tremble. Maya Daniels, the file read, former junior accountant at Cole Industries, employed 5 years ago. He blinked, disbelief washing over him. Cole Industries? Yes, sir, Parker confirmed. She worked at the Yaba branch, the one that caught fire 3 years ago. Adrian's heartbeat quickened. He remembered that fire. It had been one of the darkest moments for the company. A sudden electrical explosion that destroyed half the building and left several employees injured. Insurance had covered the damage, but the chaos that followed led to confusion in record-keeping. What happened to her after that? Adrian asked. Parker hesitated. She was one of the victims. Lost her home in the fire too. The compensation records show her file was misplaced. She never received a single naira, sir. Adrian sank into his chair, stunned. We never paid her? No, sir. The system marked her as resigned without notice. She probably tried to reach the company, but no one ever responded. The words hit him like a storm. He had always prided himself on being a fair employer, a man of integrity. Yet here was proof that someone under his own roof had been wronged and forgotten. He flipped through more pages. There was a photo, a younger Maya smiling shyly at her desk, and beside her a child's photo ID card. Lila Daniels. Her daughter, Parker said quietly. Her husband died shortly after the fire. Heart complications, I believe. Adrian's throat tightened. He closed the file slowly, staring at nothing. The woman his daughter admired, the one who sat on cold pavements teaching her child, had once worked for him. And he had failed her. He leaned back, his voice barely a whisper. All this time, she's been right there. Parker nodded. It's tragic, sir. But perhaps it's not too late to make things right. Adrian didn't respond. He was lost in memories of board meetings, endless contracts, and profit reports. He had been so consumed with success that he'd forgotten faces like Maya's, the ones who helped build his empire quietly, only to be discarded by circumstance. That evening, he stood by his office window, watching the city lights flicker below. Somewhere out there, Maya was sitting under that same mango tree, trying to survive another day. He felt a heavy ache in his chest, not the kind caused by guilt alone, but by realization. His daughter hadn't chosen that woman by accident. Life had led her there for a reason. And now Adrian Cole knew what he had to do. He would find Maya again, not as a billionaire, not as her former boss, but as a man who owed her justice, dignity, and an apology years overdue. The next few days felt like a storm inside Adrian Cole's heart. He moved through his office like a ghost, signing documents, attending meetings, giving orders. Yet his mind kept replaying one image. Maya sitting under that mango tree, smiling despite everything she had lost. Every time he looked at his reflection in the glass windows of his penthouse, he saw not a powerful man, but a hypocrite. How many people had suffered quietly while he chased profits and perfection? How many files had gone missing because he never looked beyond the numbers? That evening, he sat alone in his study, the city lights flickering far below. Tonia's school notebook lay open on the desk. She had left it there earlier, filled with neat handwriting and colorful drawings. On one page, she had written a short quote for her school project. Helping one person might not change the world, but it could change their world. Adrian's eyes lingered on those words. He felt something twist in his chest, a mixture of pride and shame. His daughter understood a truth he had forgotten long ago. When Tonia walked in quietly, holding a cup of cocoa, he forced a smile. "Hey, sweetheart." "Daddy?" she said, setting the cup down. "You look sad." He chuckled softly. "Do I?" "Yes. she said, tilting her head. You always look tired these days. Did something bad happen at work? He hesitated. For the first time, he didn't want to hide behind business talk. Tonia, he said slowly. Do you remember the woman you visit? Maya. Of course, she said with a smile. She's amazing. Lila said she wants to be an accountant when she grows up. Her words hit him again like a whisper from the past. An accountant, just like her mother once was. He swallowed hard. Did she ever tell you where she worked before? Tonia thought for a moment. I think she said she used to work in an office. Something about numbers and papers. But she didn't like talking about it much. Adrian nodded, staring into the cup of cocoa she brought him. Sometimes, he murmured, we forget that people have stories we never took time to hear. Tonia climbed onto the couch beside him, resting her head on his arm. You know what Maya says? She whispered. She says even rich people need love too. They just hide it better. Adrian froze, his eyes stinging. Even rich people need love too. That night, long after Tonia had gone to bed, Adrian walked through his silent mansion. Past the glittering chandeliers, the gold-framed portraits, the walls of polished marble. Yet for the first time, all he could see was emptiness. He thought of Maya's worn sandals, her soft smile, her daughter's laughter. He thought of the fire, the missing file, the unpaid debt. He sat on the edge of his bed and whispered to the quiet room. I failed her. I failed them. In the darkness, something in him shifted. The walls of pride that had guarded his heart for years began to crack. He realized that true wealth wasn't measured by what he built, but by the lives he touched. And right now there was a woman out there, pregnant, forgotten, wronged by his own company, who needed to know that someone finally cared. By dawn, he had made up his mind. He would visit Maya again, not as a businessman or a billionaire, but as a human being seeking forgiveness. Because for the first time in his life, Adrian Cole didn't want to be admired. He just wanted to be right. The next morning dawned gray and quiet, the kind of day that felt heavy with meaning. Adrian Cole dressed simply, no designer suit, no tie, no polished shoes, just a plain shirt and trousers. His driver looked surprised when he asked to be dropped near the old bridge. Sir, should I come with you? The man asked. Adrian shook his head. No, I need to do this alone. The city was waking up as he walked. Vendors arranged their goods, children chased each other through puddles, and a few early commuters hurried by. But Adrian wasn't looking at the chaos. His eyes were fixed ahead, at the familiar mango tree where a woman once sat with her daughter and a dream. When he reached, Maya was there, sorting roasted groundnuts into small plastic bags. Lila was nearby, reading from a torn notebook. The little girl noticed him first. Mommy, she whispered, tugging at her mother's sleeve. That's Tonia's dad. Maya looked up, startled. She quickly stood, brushing the dust from her skirt. Good morning, sir. Adrian's heart thudded painfully. Seeing her there, so calm, so dignified despite everything, humbled him more than any boardroom ever could. Good morning, Maya, he said quietly. There was a long silence. Maya looked uncertain, almost afraid. Is Tonia all right? She's fine, he said gently. She's the reason I'm here. Maya relaxed slightly but still avoided his eyes. I hope she didn't get into trouble because of us. She's a good girl. Adrian took a deep breath. No, she didn't. But I did. Her brows furrowed. Sir, I found out who you are, he said, his voice trembling despite his effort to stay composed. You used to work for my company, Cole Industries, at the Yaba branch. Maya froze, her hands tightening around the plastic bag she was holding. Yes, I did. But that was a long time ago. He nodded. I know about the fire. And I know we failed you. Her lips parted slightly, but she said nothing. Adrian continued, his voice thick with remorse. Your file was lost in the chaos. You were supposed to be compensated, but the system marked you as resigned. I didn't know, Maya. I didn't even check. I was too busy, too blind. Tears welled in her eyes, but she blinked them back. I tried to reach someone, she said softly. I sent letters, but no one replied. After a while, I stopped hoping. He swallowed hard. You shouldn't have had to stop. What happened to you was our responsibility. My responsibility. I came here today not as a boss or a billionaire, but as a man who owes you justice and an apology. For a long moment, the only sound was the wind rustling through the mango leaves. Then Maya spoke quietly. I forgave a long time ago, Mr. Cole. Holding on to pain only makes life heavier. I just wanted to raise my daughter in peace. Adrian's throat tightened. You shouldn't have had to raise her like this. Not after giving your best to my company. He reached into his bag and handed her a brown envelope. Inside is your full compensation with interest and a scholarship for Lila. She'll attend the same school as Tonya. You deserve that much and more. Maya stared at the envelope, her hands trembling. I can't. You can, he said firmly. It's not charity. It's what you earned. Tears finally spilled down her cheeks. Thank you, sir. May God bless you. Adrian smiled faintly, though his own eyes glistened. Don't thank me. Thank my daughter. She showed me what I'd forgotten. That money means nothing if it can't right a wrong. As he turned to leave, Lila ran up and hugged his leg. Thank you for helping my mommy, she said sweetly. Adrian crouched down and looked at her. No, little one. You helped me. More than you'll ever know. In the weeks that followed, life began to take on new colors for everyone. The once empty park by the bridge no longer felt like a place of sorrow. It became a place of hope. Lila's laughter now echoed with confidence as she wore her new school uniform for the first time. She twirled in front of Maya, her braids bouncing. Mommy, do I really get to go to the same school as Tonya? She asked, her voice full of disbelief. Maya smiled, adjusting her daughter's collar. Yes, my love. You earned it. You're going to shine there. When the car arrived to take them, Adrian's driver stepped out respectfully. Mr. Cole said to make sure you both get there safely, he said with a smile. Maya thanked him softly, still unsure if she was dreaming. At school, Tonya greeted Lila with open arms. You're really here, she squealed, hugging her. The two girls looked inseparable, giggling as if they had known each other their whole lives. Watching them, Maya felt a warmth she hadn't known in years. Meanwhile, in his office high above the city, Adrian Cole had changed too. His staff noticed it immediately. The man who used to rush through meetings now listened more. The one who barked orders now asked questions. He had even started visiting the charity department himself, reviewing cases personally instead of through emails. He established a new program called the Bridge Initiative, inspired by the place where he met Maya. The project offered scholarships for children of low-income workers and housing support for families who had lost their jobs through company accidents. During the launch event, reporters asked what had inspired the change. Adrian smiled faintly and said, My daughter taught me something no boardroom ever could, that real success is measured by how much light you bring to others. The audience applauded, but only Tonya, sitting in the front row beside Maya and Lila, truly understood what those words meant. After the event, he knelt to Tonya's level and hugged her. You're my greatest investment, he said quietly, and the best teacher I've ever had. She laughed. You finally learned something from me. That evening, they all gathered at Maya's new fruit stand. Bright, colorful, and built with funds Adrian had helped her start. The small business was already attracting customers. I never thought I'd own anything again, Maya said, arranging ripe mangoes on the shelf. Adrian smiled. You didn't just own it, Maya. You built it from strength. As the sun set behind them, Tonya and Lila chased each other through the market, their laughter mingling with the soft chatter of vendors. For the first time, Adrian didn't feel like a billionaire looking down at the world. He felt like a man standing in the middle of it. And as he looked at Maya's grateful smile, he knew one truth for certain. This was only the beginning. Months passed, and the rhythm of life settled into something peaceful, something meaningful. The Cole mansion, once quiet and filled only with the sound of ticking clocks and business calls, now echoed with laughter. Sometimes it was Tonya and Lila running through the garden. Other times Maya's soft voice teaching them songs while Adrian watched from the balcony, with a smile that reached his eyes. He had kept his promise. The bridge initiative had grown beyond anything he expected. Dozens of families were being helped. Mothers finding jobs, children returning to school, and workers finally receiving fair compensation. Each time he saw the reports, he thought of Maya and whispered a silent thank you. One Saturday afternoon, Tonia walked into his study carrying a large drawing. "Daddy, look," she said excitedly. He turned from his computer and smiled. "What's this, sweetheart?" "It's my plan for the future," she said proudly. On the paper was a colorful sketch of a big building filled with children reading books, with a playground beside it. At the top, she had written in bold letters, "The Bridge Learning Center." Adrian studied it, his chest tightening with pride. "A learning center?" "Yes," Tonia nodded eagerly. "I want to build a place where kids like Lila can learn for free." Maya said every child deserves a chance, even the ones who don't have fancy uniforms. He stared at her drawing for a long time, remembering his old self, the man who once measured worth in numbers. That man was gone now. What stood before him was proof that compassion could transform generations. "You'll build it," he said finally, his voice soft but certain. "And I'll help you." Tonia's eyes lit up. "Really?" He smiled. "Of course. You showed me what wealth is truly for." Later that evening, they all sat beneath the same mango tree where everything had begun. Maya, no longer in torn clothes, now wore a simple but elegant dress. Her fruit business was thriving, and she was glowing with peace, and with her newborn baby cradled in her arms. Lila leaned against her, reading aloud while Tonia listened attentively. The air was filled with joy, not sorrow. Adrian looked around the small circle of happiness and felt something shift deep within him, a kind of gratitude he couldn't explain. He had spent years building skyscrapers, yet it was here, under this humble tree, that he found what truly mattered. He turned to Maya and said quietly, "You once told my daughter that giving isn't about what's in your hand, but what's in your heart. I finally understand." Maya smiled. "And I told her the truth, Mr. Cole. You didn't lose anything. You just found what you were missing." He looked at her, then at the two girls playing in the golden sunset, and whispered, "You're right." As the evening breeze brushed through the trees, Adrian realized that the richest thing he owned wasn't his company or his fortune. It was the lesson his daughter, and a homeless woman, had taught him. True wealth isn't counted in money, but in kindness that outlives you. And from that day forward, the billionaire's legacy was no longer built on profit, but on compassion, second chances, and love that changed lives.